Yeah, good day, everybody. You already know who it is. This is your host, King Nigel of Alpha Male Diaries. Remember, ladies and gentlemen, follow me on my podcast. I'm on Red Circle. I'm on Google Podcasts. I'm on Spotify. I'm on Radio Public. I'm on Amazon Music. And I'm on Stitcher. Get at your boy. Oh, yeah. And if I didn't say it, I'm on Apple Music as well. Apple Podcasts. And ladies and gentlemen, I have a topic I would like to discuss. Why do single mothers raise beta males? And why do single mothers raise these beta males and they not, these are the type of men that these single mothers don't want in the first place. And thirdly, why do some single mothers, love the fact that beta males exist or like to date beta males or get involved with in relationships, all that other stuff. You know what I mean, ladies and gentlemen? I'm going to have a very, very interesting podcast that's going to be coming up very, 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 very soon. And I'm waiting for one of my friends now to get off work so that he can actually participate. Excuse me. He can actually participate in the podcast so you can get the perspective of, at least how some men, look at this whole situation, as well as why is this a problem? Why are, beta males and simps an issue when it comes to the whole dating thing, the whole, stepping in and providing and doing whatever, or may allow role reversals and stuff like that. You know what I mean? Why do these men do these things? Is it because these men want to be considered the good guys? Or is this because these are the type of men that women could take advantage of, single mothers? And women as well, though. Women would love them a simp. They call them suckers, sugar daddies, whatever the case is. But sometimes you gotta play. You gotta pay to play. But first, ladies and gentlemen, let's get on with this podcast. It's going to be discussed on do single mothers raise beta males? And do single mothers raise their sons to be beta males as opposed to the men that they don't want, right? And thirdly, why do single mothers love the fact that beta males exist? So, what I would do is I would start the conversation from some of the information that I have gathered from talking to numerous people, guys and women, that this was like an issue because a lot of women these days, they're more in pursuit of alpha males, right? Providers, protectors, leaders, men that's well known to the community, men that contributes to the community, that's valuable to those around him, as well as valuable to others, such as businesses, organizations, other serial entrepreneurs, other businessmen and women, stuff like that. And it sometimes get misconstrued based upon the fact that most women like the bad guys, right? The drug boys, the street dudes and all this other stuff, Ray Pookie, all them guys. But due to the fact of the money they have, they misconstrue these guys as like alpha males and high value men. So far as like when women goes out in the dating market, how they look at men being as, providers and men that they can trust that will lead them in the right direction opposed to men that they feel they have to take care of and they mooching off of them and they shacking up in their house and stuff like that. I mean, what would your input be on the scenario such as single mothers are raising baby males to be the exact same men that they don't want? I'll start with you, Tay.
Beta males. I don't think there's so much alpha. They're very well. One of them is really submissive and chill, and the other one is kind of aggressive and a go-getter, kind of like doing it, as opposed to the other one who's really everything by the book, very quiet, very relaxed. Um, so I'm not sure. Their father did, he took part in raising them up. It's not like it was just me raising them, kind of. So I think women do what they know. They raise them from what they know. So if they know beta male behavior, that's what they kind of give their children. So yeah, if they're attracted to beta males, they're going to kind of share that with their kids. And then later on, they may change as an individual and realize, okay, these aren't the guys for me. Let me try this. They meet an alpha male who treats them better in some aspect, but they may lose something that they enjoyed with the beta males, such as control. How you mentioned how they live with them and they're basically taking care of them and stuff. When that woman is used to taking care of, and then they take care of, and it's vice versa. Same.
Okay. And what about you, Jordy? Thank you, Tech. That was some very great input. I like your insight on that, Jordy.
Yeah, I definitely appreciated that, Tay. And I will say that that is indeed correct. From my experience, some of the
You got to
people
learn
I've,
it.
I'm sorry?
No, you got to learn that behavior.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. Um, One thing I tend to see is there are some who have learned and some who haven't. So those who haven't tend to try to fill in that void by doing what they think is best. For example, let's
Right.
say you have a single mother who went through a bad experience and then she's raising boys. If the experience was bad enough, she'll teach that boy or those boys to be everything opposite of their father. She'll try to teach them to be the
Mm-hmm.
type of man that she wished she had instead of the one that she actually has. Now, what I tend to see is the problem with that is the reason she had those children with that man particularly was because she was attracted to something in him. And in teaching her sons to be the opposite of her, of the baby daddy, she
Mm-hmm.
tends to succeed. But the problem is she also doesn't imbue within them the traits that will make the kids desirable to a wider majority of women, the way she was attracted to the father. So that tends to be, so that boy is tends to be a mama's boy. He's insecure. He can't talk to girls. He gets no play, so to speak. And
Mm-hmm.
that simply piles on as he gets older and eventually becomes a beta male who has no access to women.
Okay, great, great.
Yeah.
Okay. What I would do? Well, I'll ask a second question, right? Far as single mothers raising their sons, their daughters, um, the single mothers have a habit of telling their daughters to get an education and get a job and establish a career and don't worry about a man, you know, and by the time they realize they're done with college, accumulating debt, student loan debt, all that stuff, they're around like their early 30s, 32, 33. And now they're on a dating market after becoming single mothers looking for husbands in particular to provide, lead, and protect their family as a package deal. Do you find that being a problem in like today's society
Right.
with,
Yes.
I
yes,
can't hear
80%?
anyone.
You can hear it, Mario? Yeah, I can hear you, Mario.
Yeah, we can hear you. I'm not sure, but it seems like you can't.
Oh, well, um, you just popped in. At first, I yeah, could barely hear you guys.
Okay, okay. All right, Mario. Did you hear the question? No, I could repeat it if you wasn't able to hear the question.
Oh, you really low, Nigel. Let me make sure my speakers up.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm sorry about that.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. I'll ask the question again. The question I have asked, right, in today's society with single mothers, how they raise their sons to be beta males and how they raise their daughters to be independent, educated, successful, getting their degrees, and not worry about a man until later on in life when it's possibly too late. But in between time, within that span, they become single mothers and have accumulated. student loan debt and stuff, and looking for a man to provide and everything for her family.
Okay. You want me to chime in on that?
Yes.
Okay. Um, I find it ironic that along the lines of what you said, right? They'll have things where they say, okay, I don't want this man because he don't do this, he don't do that, he don't do this, right? As far as saying, okay, he has to have a job, he has to contribute, and he has to do this, right? But then you'll raise a son to work and watch you struggle to pay bills, don't want to contribute to the bills. He don't want to help you out. You'll watch him do Uber Eats, spend his money on all type of stuff, and then you'll still be calling him your baby at 25, and he's not really doing anything. And essentially, the man that you say you wouldn't touch with a 10-foot pole, or that you feel has no aspirations, you're inherently raising that same man and passing it on to the next woman. But you'll swear to your girlfriends or whoever listen that that's not the type of guy you want. But inherently, you're keeping whatever you perceive to be a process going on.
Right. Okay. I like that. I like that answer. What about you, Tay? What's your input on that?
Um, Again, it goes back to the individuals and what they have dealt with, what they know. I personally think single women, the job is hard, yes, but if they are knowledgeable of what is best for their son individually, on a societal level, like how will he excel in society? Will he excel by being a beta male, or will he excel by being an alpha male, someone who can make choices, someone who can do things on his own without, so much direction, et cetera, et cetera. Like, and if she can instill that in him, is she capable of that? Because again, that has to come from, it doesn't have to, but it's better if it translates from an alpha female who understands that alpha behavior, that behavior of making personal choices and not being afraid to be confident and moving forward and building and providing and protecting and that type of thing. Single women can do that, and because they have to do that, they're forced to do that, so they can teach it. But it's better if it comes from a single mother that is familiar with an alpha male, if that makes sense. If she's not familiar with an alpha male, everything she's dealt with in her life has been beta, that's all she knows. So then these young men are coming out here, in a different headspace. And as far as teaching their daughters to basically put their education before family, again, that too is very interesting to me. My mom she didn't do that. She didn't force me to choose. I made that choice. I preferred um, love over education, no matter whether I loved education or not. I loved school. That's my thing. I love learning, but it just wasn't for me at the time. So I built a family. I'm not sure if he was alpha or beta. I think he was kind of in between, but he was a provider. He just was very chill. If
Right.
I don't know if that's a thing, if there's an in between, but he was very chill for a man. He was very submissive on some ends, but he was a provider. He was a protector. He was very honest and open about what he needed in his, to make him happy. So I think it really depends on individual learning, individual knowledge, and really, really building that person from the ground up, like really
Okay.
knowing how they can contribute to society.
Okay, thank you. Mario, anything like to add to that or anything you can relate to in regards to what Tay just said?
Um, I agree with what she said as far as if your data that you've accumulated over time when dealing with people is only through beta males, then you're going to be
Right.
skewed as far as how you teach or what you project, because you only have one pool to choose from. You know what I mean?
Correct.
Mm-hmm.
And regardless of whether we perceive a person to be alpha or beta, some men are just not gonna ever be alphas. That's the reality of it all.
And
You know what I mean?
yes, yes.
So no matter what we choose from, that is what that is.
It is what it is.
Right,
Yeah,
right.
and this
Right. That's so true because they encounter men afterwards. I'm sorry, go ahead.
no, I'm listening.
They throughout their life they're going to encounter males from each pool, and then they have to make that choice. And if it's not in them to become an alpha male, then it's just not in them because you can be taught that throughout life. You can be taught how to grow and build and become a provider. You can, but if you just can't grasp um, that level of teaching, you're not going to do it. So that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, this been a question that I've been wanting to ask for some time, right? Cause some men and women they don't quite know how to handle this question because most men are raised just by their mothers, you know. So do you think it's true that the reason why a lot of these women would overvalue themselves is because of how the sons were raised to cater to their mother, to take care of their mother, to do the things that technically a husband or a boyfriend should have been doing, and everything like that. And just basically getting used to how the mother her attitude, the way she talks, the way she acts, and guys be like, I want a woman that's going to be feisty. I don't want no punk, type of chick. I want a woman that has some mouth on her. Do you think that's healthy, toxic, or dysfunctional for a man to be raised in that environment to where he feels as if a woman should be the one in charge? Uh, Mario, you can go with that first.
That's a question with a lot of moving parts.
Yeah, you got to unpack that one. Take your
um,
time.
yeah. I can truly speak on that because I didn't meet my father till I was like 33 years old. So that person you're talking about was me, but my mom was an old traditional Southern woman, So, it was like if something happened to you outside, and you come in the house running, crying or something, and her thing was you better go back out there and fight them. I'm gonna lock this screen door on your ass. You know what I mean?
Right, right, right.
You know what I'm
Right.
saying? So, it wasn't no kid gloves handling. So I never felt like my mom was trying to do some pseudo type stuff and put me in the role as the boyfriend or the husband or something like that. And besides, in the neighborhood I grew up in, it wasn't like you said, it was nothing but mothers raising boys. So to us, it was life as normal. We got used to it. I mean, you had your quote unquote uncles, you know what I mean?
Right.
So, but you dealt with it. I don't think it made me feel no type of way growing up, feeling like, oh, it was toxic that my mom did that. I mean, it was just life as normal, and I never really gave it much thought. You know what I'm saying? Now, were there a few anger issues by no man being around? Of course, because once you get to a certain age, you do have issues where as they say, you start feeling yourself and you be thinking your mom can't tell you nothing. But what kid don't go through that? You know what I mean?
Right.
So
Right.
I don't know if it had any effects like that. I never really sat down to think about it until you just said that, but I never had really any issues with that.
Okay. Hey, David, can you hear us?
Yes,
Okay, David, how's it going? How you doing tonight?
I'm good. I'm good. I just thought I would stop in for a few minutes. I gotta go to work, but
Okay,
I just
okay.
wanted to support your meeting tonight.
Okay, thank you. I really appreciate it. So you
No
just wanted to sit
problem.
back and listen in, or you want to participate for few seconds, or you good?
Um, I'm just joining, so I'm a little late.
Okay.
So I'll just, you know me.
Yeah. Hey, I appreciate it, brother. Thanks for the support.
You're
Uh,
welcome, man.
sure, no problem.
Tay, what's your input on that? Like, have you came across a man who feel as if a woman should actually be in charge and she should be the alpha role versus him being the beta male role and allowing the role reversals? because that's
Definitely.
what
Definitely.
he's used to.
Yeah, I have. And I saw exactly why his behavior was like that. Meeting his mom, she's very dominant. Um, she's very feminine and very loving, but she's very, very dominant at the same time. So it made a lot of sense once I met her as to why he preferred that I behaved a certain type of way. I'm not argumentative on purpose. um, yeah, I'm not gonna lie to y'all. I'll give you the business in a minute, but you have to give me a reason. I'm not argumentative, and it seemed like he would kind of want more of that. If I wasn't arguing with him, if I wasn't fussing with him, he wasn't interested, and I didn't understand. Like that didn't make sense to me. So I was like, yeah, we gonna have to be friends because that behavior you're asking for is a little dramatic for me.
Right.
So I have seen that, and I've seen that it has come from the single mom home because that's what he was used to. That's what he expected from women. And I've also seen the other side of it where that's what he saw and that's what he didn't want at all. He didn't want any of that. He didn't want arguing. He didn't want no fussing. He loved the peaceful side. He wanted to keep it that way. So the second I would raise my voice, he would literally like, yep, nope, I'm not dealing with that. And he'd walk away, you
Right.
know? So
Right.
um, it can definitely be toxic to the young man at the time. It could be toxic to his relationships because it's hard to find somebody to satisfy a parameter that your mom has. You know what I mean? And
Right.
you just hold on to that expectation and you kind of try to run with it. That's not fair, especially if the situation was argumentative and where the woman has to be in charge and you're not willing to take the reins and handle what you can handle as a man.
Got
So I think it could definitely be toxic and rough around the edges.
you. What about you,
That's a
Mario?
really interesting point of view because until he just brought it up, it's making me go back down memory lane, going, "Wait, was I affected?" By this, when I'm thinking about
Right.
it,
Right.
and looking back at it, I mean, I don't think so, but I could kind of look back at a few times where, like I said, my mama just refused to, for her words, raise a punk. And then sometimes now when you think about
Right.
that, you look back at it and go,
Right.
well, there are times where I was overly aggressive because she's put in my head, don't be no punk. You know what I mean?
Right. Right.
So maybe it does have some effect now that I think about it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. How do you
Possibly.
how do you find that balance? But you may have found that balance coming up. You may not have been over aggressive. You may have been able to know when you were in punk mode and you didn't need to be there and you'll jump out of it. Or when you need to really take it down a notch. You may have been able to balance that coming up on your own. So it depends on the man at the time. It really depends on how he wants to project himself at that point. Because after a certain point, as men and women, don't we kind of decide who we want to be? Or
Yes.
do we like
Right.
not get there without a kind of prompting, so to speak? Like somebody prompting us, oh, don't you want to be a better man? Shouldn't you be this type of man or that type of man? Or woman? At what point do we decide who we want to be as opposed to having a template of what one should be? Because, like
Right.
me personally, I was brought up to be very independent. My husband now is telling me, sit down. What are you doing? He's like, what independent? What? No, those days are over. And that baffles me. Like, I don't
Right.
understand that language. That doesn't make sense to me. Mama told me that I should never let a man do this, this, and that for me because what if he leaves? Now
Yeah.
that there is toxic.
Right.
That's
Yeah.
toxic,
Yeah. That's
right?
what we
You're
call
not letting a man be a
scarcity.
man because
Hmm.
exactly because you're being told that men can't do anything for you because they're going to expect something or A, B, and C. Yeah, mom, that's probably true for the guys you dealt with, but he's not like that. He's not like that.
Right.
What have you. So it's really in my head, it's just kind of a choice at this point. Once we grow up a bit, it's kind of a choice.
And I
It,
agree.
yeah. Yeah.
And Mario, you can, could you hear me okay through my speakers and everything? Can
Yeah,
you
I
hear
can
me?
hear you now. First you were really
Okay,
low, but
good, good.
you good now.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that. So, Mario, what would you like to add to that, or what do you have in mind that you would like to discuss as far as this topic goes? Like,
No, I agree with her, but that's a really good talking point, probably for a whole nother podcast as far as
Okay.
Hmm.
as far as what age do you really
Yeah, because
decide at who you're gonna be, what you're gonna be, and how you want to go about it. You know, as the proverbial, what age does the light bulb come on? You know what I mean?
I
Well,
yes. I
you know,
I
so
yes.
that's a good question.
I I honestly have an answer for that though. For us men, we should start around the age of 25 to see where are we going, who are we going to be, what are we going to do, how are we going to provide to fulfill our legacy and getting everything situated and established for generational wealth for when we do have kids. You know, plan ahead because the way it is today in society, each child approximately will cost you $150,000 throughout their lifetime by the age of 18, and that's something to highly consider. And that by the age of 35, that's when men lives truly start to begin as far as their value, as far as their income, their net worth and stuff like that. Up until they hit the peak of around the age of 50, let's say 45 to 55 years old. That's when a man will hit his financial stride. And that's why men become more valuable with time versus a woman losing value with time due to the age and geriatric pregnancies and stuff like that.
That's
um,
interesting.
yeah, that is interesting. I never.
Because I was like,
Wow.
where you get that 150
Like,
number
wait a
from?
minute. That 150, the 25, he
Yeah, that's
came
what I'm
with
saying.
numbers.
Where,
He
where you
got
get those
figures.
numbers from?
Yeah, from the age of 45 to 55, that's when men will hit their financial stride, their peak. That's where the man will be established in life to where if he's making six figures, he will continue to make that and maybe a little more throughout his lifetime, depending on his network of people and what he has going on to generate another source of passive income. So that happens quite a bit while you have serial entrepreneurs and all these guys that's involved in businesses and stuff like
They
I
do.
guess
Do you
my
think that plays
question
a
is,
part? Oh, go ahead.
no, where did you get 25? That just seems so late.
Well, the reason why it's the age of 25 for a man to actually know this, because think about it. Most men are influenced to go to college from the time they're 18. They may go for 4 years, they may go for like their doctorate degree or something like that. That gives them time to figure out are they actually going to get a job pertaining to their degree, or do they actually go to college for something that's actually useless because they're interested in something else? Like they probably decided to start their own business and become an entrepreneur and then grow from there. So they will have 10 years to accumulate all the finances that they need in order to be able to be established to actually have a wife by the age of 35. That's when a man should actually look to be married by the age of 35. He's more
To get his
mature.
That's
full
interesting.
wealth.
Yes.
Yes.
It
I
is
hear what
interesting.
you're saying. I think that's probably, I guess, I don't know. It's interesting when you hear that. And then I don't know, when you started talking about that, I started thinking about my parents and um, people back in the day that didn't have as much, but yet they made their marriage and their relationships work. So and the man always kind of, to some degree, I guess, in my viewpoint of, um, was the leader at that point. And more so, they worked together in developing their relationship. Now I think everybody's like on their own independently trying to figure out this whole thing. Because, most of the time your parents didn't have very much when they started out. That's always been the
Right.
story. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Right.
Exactly.
yeah. So what age would you say if you say that's 25 is a little late? What's your
Well, I mean, after he gave his explanation, um, it made sense to, like, if you go to college and if you're going to do a master's or doctoral, you're probably going to be around that age. However, most time you're developing those relationships too while you're going through those the educational process
Right.
or whatever, as far as trying to figure out getting the education for the job that you wish to take. I mean, just because you go to school doesn't mean you don't start dating or you don't
Yep.
start
Yep.
developing a relationship.
Exactly.
Um, so I don't know. I mean, I just think that we set rules in this modern day society that doesn't always do us that doesn't work to our best interest. And I think maybe perhaps uh, I don't know how do you change the way we do things now based upon the way things were done when they were a little bit less simpler, because we have more now access to being able to meet people or develop relationships or come up with ways in which relationships should be built as far as social media, different things of that nature. And they didn't have that stuff back then,
Right.
but somehow they made it. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, I agree.
Right.
And that's
Somehow,
I
right?
agree.
yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
And
I
that's
know
the
we look now. Could we have done that? Could we
right.
have well, we could. I'm over 40. I'm 44, so I
I'm
think our
55, so
generation,
yes.
okay, so I think our generation could actually have done that, but maybe the generation right after us, I don't know that they would be able to handle those type of things. Do you think like income plays a part in whether or not a man or woman becomes the alpha or beta?
Well,
Do you think
I
that if they have less money coming up, that they don't feel like they can provide, or are they more likely to strive for that? Or
right.
is that individualistic too?
Well, it's more or less individualism, and I would say this, and this is not to be rude. First, the term is alpha woman. The alpha term really applies to like a man being a leader, provider, protector, him
Being who he
being
is.
who he is as a successor. But you do have nice, smarter women or masculine women who wants to be equal on the same level as a man because she has a leadership role and had a household and she's making money that an average man will make, but she make maybe $10,000 more, $15,000 more. So in her mind, since she's so independent, early in that stage, they would still say, "Oh, I'm a boss chick." You know what I mean? Because they're making more money than the average man. So it's like in their mind, if you don't have what I have, then you're not a man. You should be making more than me because you're a man, and that's not the case. See, and that's what the problem is. Men would date down. We would go down in looks and go up in cooperation.
Mm, wow. So I feel like there's such a divide when it comes to men and women when that's the behavior. When they start comparing duties or they start comparing
Roles.
what one should do or roles or something. You know what I mean? Once they
Yeah.
start comparing what one should or shouldn't do, I feel like it starts to divide. If if I have to take care of the kids and go to work tomorrow because you're sick, I'm doing exactly that. If I have to knock somebody out to protect the house because your leg is broke, I'm going to do that.
Hmm.
However, if you're well and able, I'm going to back up, protect the kids this way, and you protect the house that way. You know what I mean? So it's like we have to know our place in our particular, I like to call it a journey as opposed to relationship, because
Right.
relationships, the roles are kind of spoken for. The
Well, yeah.
woman stays in the kitchen barefoot and pregnant, and the man has to go work and, take care of the house and do everything else, and that's not always fair. It's not
Right.
always feasible.
Right.
So if we're
Well,
going on a journey together, we have to share that. If you have to flip it and you have to take care of the house while I go work because you have a condition, why is that?
right. Well, I'm gonna
That
say
shouldn't
too.
be an issue. That should be expected.
Right. I'm sorry to cut you off. I'm gonna say two things. I think we have like 4 minutes left for recording. Number one, the fair thing goes, far as the fairness goes, men that don't really exist with us because by nature we're conquerors. That's just how we are. We're territorial, so we don't really see anyone on our level. You know what I mean? It's like if I'm gonna be the male, I'm going to be the protector, the leader, the provider. Meaning he's going to make the most money. He's going to say, hey, this is what I need you to support me in.
And
And
this is
this is
from
from traditional values. And it's either you're on my program or I would get somebody else that's well. Because most men that look for wives that's able to afford their wives
You
and
still there?
not,
yes.
yes,
I
and
think he
not,
faded out again.
who me? I faded out?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
Oh, Okay. Yeah, I think it's the recording about to cut off. But yeah, those type of guys are able to make enough money to have their wives just not work for them and stuff like that. So that's why when you get to a certain caliber of a man, that equality thing isn't like a partnership at all. It's like it's a marriage. You know what I mean? This is my role and this is your role. We're not equals because if someone wants to bust into the house, or if it was a fire in the house, I'm going to be the one looked at as the one who's going to save us or fight off an intruder or get us out the house safely. Society's not going to look at a woman that way. And that's why that whole thing, we have to maintain our structures as far as the roles that we play as husband and wife. Because if you look at each other as equals, would the wife really respect her husband the way she should compared to traditional times as it is with modern women today?
Well,
Mm.
definitely, definitely. But I also feel that the woman should be able to take the role should the man not be able to. It's like sending your
Yes.
husband out to war, he comes back in and he's injured. Okay, that can't stop. What he's doing can't stop because you still have to provide for the house. Are
Right.
you able to do that?
Right.
Can you step up and do that for him? You know what
Exactly.
I mean? And
And
it's
Exactly.
yeah,
something that has to be taught by the man though. Like the man has
Right.
to teach you that particular role. He has to let you know, listen, this is what goes on. If I'm down, I need you to do this.
See?
And generally he'll have it in play. He'll have a
Exactly.
plan should he goes down. But
Exactly. Right. And you're
it,
correct.
it definitely has to be a heavy communication in that aspect.
Right.
yeah.
Merlin. Merlin.
I think when it comes to things like that, situation like that, there's going to be X factors in every situation. And sometimes we
Right.
plan for the straight and narrow, but we don't necessarily put much thought into what if the cart turns over. You know what I'm
Exactly.
saying?
Yes.
You say you go to school, like you said, for 4 years. You say you do this, like he said, you're gonna be dating, you're gonna be doing things. It's gonna be X factors along the way
Mhm.
that's gonna either deter you or make it difficult, or you thrive in it. So when you said how society gonna see it, should we worry about how society see it as long as they get the job done? You know what I'm saying? If like she said, if her husband is whatever, she still have to take over. It still has to be done no matter who does it.
Right.
You know what I mean? And a lot
Exactly.
of times, cause we're pulling apart from each other, nobody's worried about getting the job done. We worried about, is it your
Right.
job? Is it his
Who's
job?
doing it?
Who's doing it?
Mm-hmm.
Who cares?
Mm-hmm.
This in order for our household to function properly, this job needs to be done regardless.
Together.
Yeah. Right.
Together. And that's why I said that's
Exactly.
how society would look at it. You understand what I'm
Right.
saying? That may not be the
Right. As a whole.
situation between a whole right as husband and wife. But that's how some people, well, they're not equal because of this happened, and that's what
Mm-hmm.
happens. That's how
Mm-hmm.
division is brought amongst us. Anyways,
Yes.
David,
Yes.
what do you have to say?
I don't know. The subject has got me in my mind thinking just all kinds of ways because I've done so many studies, and I guess thinking about where did all of this derive? I mean, where did it all start for role playing? And I don't know. I guess I started. My mind went back to, and I'm like I said, this conversation opened my mind to a lot of things. The history of marriage, and I did this study and actually heard a podcast of a group of lawyers who actually looked at marriage as it has to do with the United States, and how different movements came out during from the conception of colonization, and even with women and different things of how women. So my mind is thinking how a lot of this has evolved from the conception of what took place in this country from colonization. I know that sounds crazy to some, but I don't think we ever think back that far, because out of those laws came challenges, which moved us to where we are as far as how people individually think, when it comes down to womenist or the women movement. And I think I think that has to be examined. And maybe sometimes we might have to decolonize our minds to how we say things are supposed to be done, in order for us to, or either unlearn some of our behaviors in order for us to, because it doesn't serve us to the way that we do things now. Does that make sense? Because we're in a whole different era.
Makes a lot of sense.
Yes.
Agreed. Makes
Yes.
makes totally good sense. Because
Absolutely.
everything that we've learned is not good. You know what I mean? So
That's
some
correct.
things you it would behoove you to unlearn.
Correct.
Right.
Right.
Okay. Well,
Yeah.
everybody.
And yes, it's one thing to say that we should be a certain way, but then you have to understand the behavior of why we are the way that we are in order to make progress. It's like getting to the root of the problem. But I think we generally have conversations that kind of, we're saying the same thing, but we bypass each other without not even trying to find a solution to what it is. And a lot of it has to do with work, which most people don't want to do.
Correct.
We,
Right.
by nature, are lazy. We don't
Right.
want to
It's a
put it.
different type of
Right.
lazy though.
Yeah, I mean, we don't want to put in that work in order to unlearn or either understand that we evolve. We're continuously evolving in a world that changes. So therefore, as he was saying, you know, there's different situations in life that comes toward us, but as a spiritual being, we have to learn how to adapt to those particular situations that's in our lives, and how we deal with that is is an evolution type of situation because of the fact that everything in life changes. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, ladies and
Yeah, it
gentlemen,
does.
I hate to cut it short, but I'm getting notification the video just is about to end. I only had 40 minutes to do the podcast, and
Cool.
I.
Right. Yes, I'd like to thank everyone for joining, and I also like to give a shout out to Mario Watts. Ladies and gentlemen, please remember to subscribe and follow him on this podcast at Random Select. You can find him on Anchor FM on Spotify, and you can add the rest of the details, Mario.
Hey, thank you for having me, man. I really appreciate it. And we should definitely do this again.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
that was good. I enjoyed it. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you,
Thank
Faye.
you.
I got
Thank
more
you, Jamie.
questions, so yeah, call me back.
Okay, thank you, Faye. I really appreciate the time. I really do. Thank you. Hey, David, thanks a lot again
Yes,
for joining in, man. I greatly appreciate your
you're
insight.
welcome. I needed some thought-provoking, something to think about for it. So thank you for a minute, because I had a lot of other things, and sometimes just having a different topic I'll definitely put you where you need to be.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
appreciate it. Thanks a lot.
And it
All
was
right,
great,
man.
great meeting you guys.
Yeah,
Same to you,
Me
man.
and you.
All right.
thanks a lot,
Bye.
everybody. All right,
Bye.
bye.
You already know what it is. You might like what I say, then again, you might not, but you already know. I don't give a fuck. But until next time, ladies and gentlemen, peace. And this is your host, King Nigel of Alpha Male Diaries. And I'm out.